Let's go!
I was checking out the scouting report, and I don't see nothing but bums. You and your whole entire world know that I am the one. You and your squad ain't got nothing for me. Hey. Your organization is looking stressed. What? And now that you haters is running from me, I know that you see that I'm highly blessed.
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we live with your boy Coach G. Yeah, we live with your boy Monty.
You and your squad ain't got nothing for me. Your organization is looking stressed. And now that
all right, we're here. Welcome into March Madness Sweet 16 edition of The Rewind, brought to you by Global Sports Entertainment 3. I'm the captain, the CEO of the ship, Monty Moss. No Bryant tonight, which is probably a good thing for the sake of tonight's episode. But all great to the good Lord. Good to be here. And want to give a special shout out to my dog, Chris 99 Studios, for the rearranging, the pivoting. Of course, tonight was supposed to be our episode live at High End Cigars in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. But due to some other important matters, I should say, we had to pivot. So appreciate Chris and all he does to be able to kind of do this. I am not home, of course. I am in a special location, which I won't say. Church. It's called for what it is. And we have a great show for you guys tonight, breaking down some March Madness Sweet 16 previews, both men's and women's, as well as give all love to those who support and watch each and every week. If you haven't, subscribe to our YouTube channel at 31_GSC3, as well as follow us on all of our social media platforms at 31_GSC3. Of course, if you didn't know, now you know. My Instagram has been dismantled, broken down, and thrown in the trash. I won't get into the details of who, what, when, where, and why, and how, but I did have to create a new Instagram account, so at Monty_Moss3, and it's the journey to get back to where I was and then some. Frustrating at first, but moving forward, because what God replaces, he brings back double. Not saying I'm looking for it, but I'm just saying, speaking words of wisdom. Want to give also a special shout out to my two favorite people on the West Coast. That's probably arguable because I might get in trouble after this, but that's okay. I'm going to put on the record my two favorite people on the West Coast as Miss Susan, my big dog, my sis, my OG, my protector, celebrating another year around the sun. Happy anniversary to her and her husband, John Copeland Jr., JC23, as I call him. He's been a guest on the Rewind multiple times throughout our existence since episode 1, being part of episode 1 in the launch. But of course, he knows he's on special assignment every now and then when he's got to get called out the bullpen. Speaking of which, with the episode having to be live at High End and knowing I was only planned to have one guest virtually, which I'll introduce her momentarily, and knowing I was going to have High End Cigars manager Eric present at the Cigar Lounge on tonight's episode, I had to pivot and go to the bullpen. If you guys watch baseball, the manager eventually goes to the bullpen when he needs to bring in his closer, or the reliever is pretty much pitching the bottom of the 8th to get to the top of the 9th, which will then be 3 outs before we go home and win. So that's what I did, made a call to the bullpen to my dog, and he said, no problem, whatever you need. I said, I'll be there, man of his word. And it's going to be happy he answered the call, because if he said no, show still goes on regardless. I still get to sit here and talk and look sexy and glamorous, and I still get to talk smack sports-wise to my guests that's getting ready to come on. So want to give a happy anniversary to him and his wife. Celebrating them always. And who knows? Maybe I might just send them a gift. Maybe. I might not. Maybe. Possibly. Not sure. If those out there, possibly. Maybe not. So let's get started with tonight's guest, bringing in our first guest. She is a returning guest on the Rewind, very knowledgeable. We've worked on numerous projects together. I've been on her platform since she started in 2020. Heard that with Marissa Tigney, because I used to call it Tingley, but Tigney. And you can catch her and support on all of her platforms, as well as her YouTube channel. But she is joining us here for Sweet 16 March Madness edition here on the Rewind. And I appreciate her also with pivoting, because clearly 9 o'clock is an hour ahead of where she's at in Texas, which would be 8 o'clock. But yet we're here at 9 o'clock and it's 8 o'clock her time. So appreciate all of the understanding, the commitment, the willingness to move counterparts around to join us live and present. So Marissa, good to see you, my good sister, my big sis from the good state of Texas. Welcome in episode 57. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely excellent. What a great time right now to be a college basketball fan, especially if your bracket hasn't busted yet. You still can enjoy all the wonderful games that are going to be coming up. And I love that we're diving into men's and women's Sweet 16. So there's some surprises that I'm excited to talk to you about, and how you use the pivot term. Some of these teams, especially on the women's side, definitely are going to pivot to get to that Final Four spot there in Phoenix. So let's get after it.
Did I say I had another guess? I didn't say that, did I? Did I? I don't. I thought it was just us two tonight. Oh, I did say I went to the bullpen, right? You know, the manager was like, bullpen. Get them in the game. Come on, let's go. Time to close this out. Top of the ninth. We need to go home. So joining us again, returning from his multiple appearances on the Rewind and wishing a happy anniversary. It's our anniversary.
I could do without the singing, bro.
Save the recording. There you go.
You know, the same way you came in is the same way you can exit. You know, right? You understand that? All right. This is March Madness edition. You know, survive and advance. You might survive and not advance. Tread lightly now. Tread lightly. But JC23 in the house. If you haven't, please follow him on Instagram as well. Support him on his new endeavor. He's doing really well, over 30 episodes. If I'm wrong, that's okay, because I'm speaking into existence. Jake Conversations, which you guys can catch on Thursdays, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific for the people on the West, because times went ahead. The hour we lost, so the hour's ahead. So it's good to see you, brother. Welcome into March Madness edition, Sweet 16 on the Rewind. What's up, Black King?
Thank you, man. Good to be here. You know, when you make the call, I got to be here. I'm going to show up. So let's get to it.
He's been summoned. You heard that? When he
heard that. See?
When I make the call, he's been summoned because he knows the responsibility somewhat. He knows his role in this in some capacity, and he knows he's welcome anytime, but he's got his own thing going on. We support him, you know what I mean? So we just make it work and make it do what it do, when it do, however it do, right here on the Rewind, because that's what we do. That's trademark that. Let's get into it with NCAA women's side of the bracket, Sweet 16 preview, and that's one of Marissa's favorite teams that she's had her eye on throughout the entire Big East season, as well as the Big East tournament, and that's the UConn Huskies, who are looking to repeat once again. Gino Auriemma looking to win back-to-back national champions for the first time in a long time since he's done that. Right now, the Huskies are in the Sweet 16 for the 32nd straight time. Maybe for people out there don't understand what that means, he's been in the Sweet 16 32 straight times, okay? And he's done it again and again and again and again. 32. Previewing the UConn Huskies and how they got here, they had a 30-point victory over UTSA in the first round, followed by a 98-45 win over Syracuse Orange. I'm not going to talk about the men's. We're talking about the women's. Friday, tip it off. They have a game against the number 4 seed, North Carolina, at 5 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. We talk about UConn Huskies and the star-studded talent that they have on the offensive end. And I have arguably said they have 3 first-round draft picks on their team right now. That's in the starting lineup. But we're going to talk about Azzi Fudd, who in her last game against Syracuse had 34 points, making 8 threes. Sarah Strong contributing, being that number 2 for UConn, as well as number 1, because it switches all the time. 18 points, shooting 7-11 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. And, of course, you got to give love to the bench, because in the tournament, you never know what you need for your bench. But you do need a spark from your bench at any particular point in the game, rather it's first half or the second half. And that's Blanca Quinones with 18 points and 21 minutes of play off the bench against Syracuse. Out-rebounded Syracuse 46-28. UConn's been a force on the boards. 18 offensive rebounds in the game, in the win over Syracuse. And let alone defensively, the mechanism of what they do. They force Syracuse to 20 turnovers and capitalizing off points off turnovers. Now, Marissa, we have heard that potentially people are saying it could be South Carolina. People are saying it could be UCLA. Some folks out there are saying Texas as a potential Final Four matchup. I don't want to jump that far ahead yet, but what's impressed you with UConn's run so far? And do you see anyone right now in the Sweet 16 and possibly in the tournament who can defend and stop Gino from getting back-to-back with UConn?
No, I don't. And me being a Michigan fan, and that was the only team, I believe, during the regular season, the Michigan Lady Wolverines, that gave UConn a little bit of a scare when they played them in the regular season. And that's the only challenge that I've seen them have. The brilliance of Gino Auriemma is that he knows how to coach his guards and he knows how to coach his bench. And when you see from last season with Paige Beckers basically handing the baton off to Azzi Fudd, Sarah Strong, and that whole entire team, it doesn't matter if it's the starting five. It doesn't matter if it's the bench. All around that team is deep, and they know how to connect and make their shots. I want to go back a little bit real quick to what the head coach of Syracuse said, Felicia Leggetti-Jack, in which her statement was that she felt that her playing UConn in the region that they're assigned to, that them being out 3 straight times, that she's taken the attack being personal, meaning her talented squad is going against pretty much a juggernaut. Like, this is a wall that they cannot climb. And I had a discussion with people online about, listen, it's basically, I took the quote from Ric Flair: to be the man, you got to beat the man.
Oh yeah.
And that's basically what it is. You can throw NIL, you can go and buy the recruits, you can utilize the transfer portal. It's all about who is going to be that one that's going to beat the popular team that has the depth that right now is the only one that's undefeated. We can go all the way back, and John knows this, to the Pat Summitt days at Tennessee, where she was literally running the tables of these teams, and she was the pest until Gino, all of a sudden, when he took over that UConn team, he was figuring it out and matching soon bar for bar, trying to say, when they see Tennessee on the schedule, when they see Tennessee in the national championship game, he literally had his team ready, like, okay, she's not going to win the championship with her team this year because we don't figure out how to shoot better at the free throw, how to rebound, how to steal, how to play defense, how to be a bully underneath the net. So that is what these teams are going to need to do. UConn is going to have a long day because that's their next opponent. And maybe, I know we're going to preview it. Notre Dame and Vanderbilt. That is going to be an exciting game about who's going to end up playing UConn in the Elite Eight, because you got 2 talented guards in Hannah Hidalgo and
Mikayla Blakes.
That is 2 exciting teams right there. But I just do not, as far as this team and the depth of this team of what UConn is doing, it should surprise no one whatsoever if they end up going through and being in the championship, and let alone winning this whole thing undefeated again. And that'll be a 14th title for Coach Auriemma and his team.
Well, he's already lost fingers on how many rings he can count. So I'm sure number 14 won't matter.
Listen, they need to go ahead and build a statue of some sort or name something after him, because he's a legend in there. And it's going to be big shoes to fill once he says, you know what, I'm 72 years old, if he decides to, but he won't. I'm going to step away. I've done everything that I can do. Those records that are that he has broken is not going to be touched for a very long time.
Yeah, Storms, Connecticut will definitely have a statue ready when Gino is far ready to retire. I don't think he's retiring anytime soon, but you have to say that the dominance of what UConn has pretty much continued after losing Paige Beckers to the Dallas Wings last year in the draft. They have not missed a beat at all. And the fact that you bring back your 3 star-studded talent and be able to dominate not also college basketball, but dominate the conference. And that's the Big East, and winning another Big East championship, adding another Big East title to UConn and Coach Auriemma's resume. That's just speak volumes to what it is. But I feel like in the game of basketball, how we say a game of runs, it is also a game of runs, depending on your team, because we've seen destruction from teams from year to year to year. And the success that you had last year, you may not have again the following year. We know South Carolina has been on the run of dominance. Now it seems to be this is the time where it's UConn's turn to have the dominance, and they have an opportunity to win back-to-back championships for a first time in a long time. Now, John, let's go to you, because we talked about Vanderbilt and Notre Dame coming up. And as Marissa talked about, 2 star-studded caliber point guards on display with Mikayla Blakes, who's averaged 27 points this year, as well as Hannah Hidalgo, who's averaged 25 points a game this year. Both are the engines for their team, respectfully, for Notre Dame and for Vanderbilt. And let me just say this. Mikayla Blakes is one of, if not the best scorer in the country, with her ability to put the ball on the floor, get to her spots, has a great mid-range game, but let's not also forget her facilitating and getting to her spots and creating for her teammates. You know, you have obviously her being amazing in open court. She's great with her IQ, great leadership in terms of holding her teammates accountable. But flip side, what Hannah Hidalgo has been for Notre Dame and the program for Coach Ivy, it's been a run that a lot of people did not predict for Notre Dame to be here in the Sweet 16. But what is your takeaway from this upcoming game between Vanderbilt and Notre Dame?
Honestly, I think it's going to be a great game. I think this is going to come down to coaching. And it's also what star is going to show up in those big moments, because we never expected Notre Dame to be here. Like after, the season they had last year with the transfers and everything, we had no idea that they were going to be back in this seat. Hidalgo has carried this team. Ivy's done a great job coaching this team, even though she went through it in the middle of the season and people calling for a job and what have you. She's shown you that she's a great coach. So in this game, this is what it's going to be about. It's going to be about coaching, and it's going to be about which star comes up big in those big moments. This is why you're the star of the team. When we need a bucket, I need you to get a bucket. If I need, you need an assist, I need you to get that. So whoever plays the better out of these two and puts the team on their back, that's who's going to come out of this. I love Hidalgo. I've always loved Hidalgo. I love her game. I love her IQ. Blake's the same way. Like she's better than I thought she was. I knew she was good. I didn't think she was going to be this good. And she has shown that she is a premier player in this game. She's going to be around for a while. And I'm very intrigued by this matchup between the two, because they have similar games, and that they're not just going to beat you with their scoring. They're going to beat you with their facilitating, with their basketball IQ. So that's really what it's going to come down to. The role players are going to play a role in this. Like, you're going to need people to do their jobs, and they're going to have to show up. But when it comes down to it, these two are going to determine who walks away with this win.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the reasons why Mikayla is good as how good she is, and how she gets to it and gets it going, because she's from New Jersey, right? And
here we go.
Talent
here we go.
Not the ordinary. Now, look, I'm not going off a cliff and saying, hey, New Jersey's got the best talent, men's and women's. I'm not saying that, but for her dominance, her no fear factor, her confidence. Mm-hmm. That has come from, of course, being from the great state of New Jersey, because, look, we've seen people come from places and they get to the big stage and they fold like a lawn chair. But I don't think Mikayla Blakes at all. It'll be an interesting game between these two. That game will be at 2:30 Eastern time. Winner will take on the winner of UConn and North Carolina. And look, let's just face it. I as much as me, I'm a Notre Dame fan. I will not be biased, but Notre Dame's going to have some issues if they cannot stop Mikayla Blakes. Is Coach Ivy going to come out into a zone? Is she going to go to a press? Is she going to try and slow this Vanderbilt offense down? We know Vanderbilt is average over 85 points this year in the regular season. They have been a force in the tournament, but this right now is where you want to be in college basketball if you're a fan of the women's side. Two teams that have ended the season well, going into conference tournament play, ending in the season to then go transition to the tournament. Both did what they're supposed to get to the Sweet 16. But right here, the tougher you go, the harder it gets. And this would be a great matchup between these two teams. So let's get a quick pick for this game, Notre Dame or Vandy. Marissa, who do you like to win?
I love a disruptor, and Hannah Hidalgo is a disruptor. And she's a disruptor at the right times when need be. People can expect this game to be very close. Do not be surprised if this goes into overtime. I expect Notre Dame, UConn, they're going to meet each other in the Elite Eight.
Notre Dame, UConn, Elite Eight. John, who do you like in this one, Hannah or Mikayla?
I'm going with Hannah. I'm the same way. I think that she is a disruptor offensively and defensively. And like I said, I think people have slept on the job that Coach Ivy has done this season. And I know she's trying to figure out a way, and she's going to try to figure out a way to slow Mikayla down. She has to, because you can't have her running up and down the court. So I'm very curious to see what defense she employs to slow her down. But I'm going with Notre Dame. I love Hidalgo. She does it on both ends of the court, and I think she's going to pull this off.
All right, I will not give my prediction for this game because I cannot be in the middle of this between you two. But let's just say I'm picking Notre Dame. All right, I'm picking Notre Dame to win. But it's going to be a great matchup. I would not be surprised if Vanderbilt comes out with the win. I think it'll be a really tight game, really close down to the wire. That is what I want to see from these two impressive guards and these two impressive offenses, and in the style of play that both teams play different. But we shall see. Then you have UConn and North Carolina, of course, at 5. I'm going with the Huskies. I don't see North Carolina winning. I think we all agree on that across the board. So let's just put it in our brackets if we haven't already. UConn advancing to the Elite Eight once again. Changing gears, we go to the men's side of things, and this is where things get a little bit crazy. And that is breaking down some of the teams that have got here and teams that we look forward to seeing in the Sweet 16 matchup. I know games kick off tomorrow on Thursday, Arizona and, of course, John Calipari and Arkansas. We got Texas, who's been a sleeper for a lot of people. People had them out in the first round, not the second. They survived and advanced to go up against the Big Ten champions, Purdue Boilermakers. Iowa, who's probably screwed up 95, if not 97% of people's brackets, because I'm one of the few that can say I picked Florida to win that game, but yet Florida lost by 2 against Nebraska, who's been one of the hottest teams and most impressive teams so far this year, not also in the country, but in the Big Ten. Illinois and Houston, that'll be a good barn burner. Then Friday, the game I think everyone wants to see. That's Duke and St. John's, John Shire versus Rick Pitino. Then we got good old Dan Hurley, two-time national champion against Tom Izzo. That'll be a pretty much a student versus mentor type of game. But then again, not because Hurley has won 2 while Izzo has won 1. I'm not going to get into it. And then Michigan, Alabama, then Tennessee versus Iowa State, who I have to make a deep run, and that's getting to an Elite Eight. So let's go with Friday's games, but let's quick preview of Thursday's game: Texas, Purdue, Iowa, Nebraska, Arkansas, Arizona. John, I'll start with you. What game are you looking forward to seeing? But let's start with Texas and Purdue. Who do you like to advance the Elite Eight between these two teams?
Honestly, let's see. I'm looking forward to Arizona, Arkansas.
Okay.
I love the kid Akuf from Arkansas. I think he is the real deal, and I've literally watched this kid at times put the team on his shoulders and just take over. So I'm curious. I think Arizona has a better team, but I'm curious to see how this kid plays. He's already shown the spotlight doesn't scare him. He's still putting up big numbers. It doesn't matter who's in front of him. I think he can be a problem for Arizona. I think Arizona's a little deeper, but I'm not ruling Arkansas out because of their athleticism and just because of this kid.
John, as much as I want to agree with you, and it's a good talking point. Arizona, I talked about it last week, being pretty much one of the largest in terms of depth teams in the country in terms of their starting 5 and their bench production. Just a quick highlight for those out there that may not know, in Arkansas's last game against High Point, Arkansas's bench only produced 2 points to High Point's 38. And we know in the tournament with Arizona, they have a bench. Arkansas, on the other hand, if you haven't noticed, Calipari has gone 7 deep in this tournament. So it's been a lot of wear and tear on A-Cup Jr. It's been a lot of wear and tear, of course, on Brizo and, of course, DJ Wagner coming off the bench to contribute in some capacity. However, for a game like this, knowing the stake for these two teams, winner gets the Elite Eight, I'm just going to stick with Tommy Lloyd and what has worked, and that has been the consistency from his bench. Of course, having Brayton Burries, who's been leading the team in scoring, averaging over 16 points a game this year. I like Tommy Floyd in this game to advance to Elite Eight. I just think Calipari, if you haven't gone deep and if your bench hasn't showed you what you're working with, now is not the time in the Sweet 16 game against Tommy Lloyd and Arizona Wildcats to have those experiments going on. Agree or disagree?
I think
I agree with y'all. Yeah.
John, go.
I think now is not the time to experiment. You got to go with the horse that got you there. So you can't just start throwing people out there. So these guys at this point, it's what it is. You listen, you dance with who got you there. So if you're sticking with the 7-man rotation, now's not the time to see what your 8, 9, and 10 guys can do. This isn't the platform for it. You're gonna have to ride these guys. And the one thing, like I said, about Arizona that does scare me is their depth. Like, they are still pulling people off of that bench. and they can play the slow down game. They can run up and down the court. So they've shown that this style of play really doesn't affect them because they have the talent for it. Calipari, like I said, they have to get out hot. They can't afford for any of these guys to have an off day, and they definitely can't afford for people to get in foul trouble because we haven't seen the bench and what it looks like. So we don't know how these guys are going to react when the stakes are this high. So, like I said, I give the edge to Arizona, but if Arkansas were to pull this off, I would not be shocked. Like, it would not be something where I'm like, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, you're not right, but you're also not wrong. If I'm Tommy Lloyd, it's pretty much simple, right? It's simple. We know A-Cup Jr. shoots at a high clip, having a really good high efficiency field goal percentage so far in the season, shooting over 44% from the field. But if I'm Tommy Lloyd, it's pretty simple. Let's put pieces in place to limit A-Cup Jr.'s production offensively. Let's force him in pick and roll actions on the defensive side. Let's tire him out. Let's do everything in our power to force someone else on Arkansas to beat us, because once you take out the main source, from what I've seen this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've seen from Arkansas this year, they don't have that guy. And there's no shade to anybody else on the team, Malik Thomas included. No disrespect. I just don't think Arkansas has the firepower to be able to compete in terms of next man up from an offensive scoring standpoint to give Arizona any type of headaches that's going to put Tommy Lloyd in a position to change things up. Now, I know man-to-man has been the bread and butter for Arizona because they're long, they have length, they can defend, they can switch, they have athleticism on defensive side. We know that from an offensive perspective, Arizona doesn't shoot the three-point basket at a high clip, being last this year in the conference. But throughout the tournament, they've been impressive. They've been one of the hottest teams right now. And as I said last week, they have the easiest path to get to a Final Four. And look, right now with the matchup we get to see from coaching perspective of Tommy Lloyd versus John Calipari, I look forward to seeing these two teams get it on tomorrow night, 9:45 Eastern time on CBS. Quick pick, Marissa. Who you like, Arizona or Arkansas, to advance to Elite Eight?
I have Arizona, but the graphic that you had up previously, I want to dive right into why people need to stop sleeping on Texas.
Oh,
okay.
Well, tell us why.
Listen, here's the thing. This is going to be a fun game, ladies and gentlemen. Do you not understand it? Both of these teams right now are playing the best basketball right now. You have Braden Smith, who just passed Bobby Hurley's assist record on Purdue. You have the young man, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name?
Dylan Swain.
Dalen, thank you. That is literally leading this Texas team. And I think the people are really sleeping on is the fact that, on the women's side, you have Virginia, the Lady Cavaliers, who are in the first four that are now in the Sweet 16. Texas came from the first four, and they're now in the Sweet 16. People need to put some respect on Sean Miller. Sean Miller has ran teams and turned them into winners. He did it with Xavier. He did it with Arizona. And yes, there was a little problem. That's a whole show later with Arizona.
Marissa, you mean when you couldn't walk in through the front door, but now they allow you to walk out the back door? Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean when you say Sean Miller? Is that what you're saying?
He's got some spots on the resume.
He's had some troubles.
He's had some troubles. But if you look at his resume, winning Pac-10 5 times in all the accolades that he has he hoisted the trophy up yet as a head coach? No. But the fact of the matter is, I got my eye on this game just for the sheer fact that because the guard play and the center play, and then who is going to be the one that's going to be making their free throws. I have a slight favorite. Just because Braden Smith is that leader on that Purdue team. They did beat our Go Blue in the Big Ten championship, in the postseason, the championship in the Big Ten. And everybody was, all of a sudden saying that, Purdue was a fluke and everything else. And I said at the conclusion of the game, before the 68 tournament was announced, Purdue is going to go far in this tournament. And they have proved to everybody that they can. Now you got a team that has nothing to lose as their next opponent. How well is the guards going to show up? How well they're going to connect with the free throws? and who is going to be the one that stays out of foul trouble. Because Texas, they cannot afford their starting three to get into foul trouble. If that ends up being the case, Texas can surprise people and move on to the Elite Eight. I just don't have them there. I think that Braden Smith and this team is just too deep, and they can hit the three from anywhere. So far, we've seen it in several of the games that has been played. I got Purdue slightly beating Texas, moving on to the next round.
I'm not mad at that at all because, being a Michigan fan and seeing the dominance we've had in the Big Ten and beating Ohio State twice. Did I say that right? Ohio State twice.
Talk that talk. That's right.
Beating Michigan State twice. And I only say that because our producer is a Buckeye faithful. So, whenever I get my chance to get my punching bags in, I'm going to take the opportunity to do it. But, with the season Michigan has had and me, the dominance that they've had, you cannot sleep on a Purdue Boilermaker team who's pretty much been right there along the way in the Big Ten throughout the season this year. Them winning the Big Ten championship was earned, not given. They deserve it. So, look, Purdue is deep. They show me when you beat the best, and that was at the time that the number one seed in the Big Ten tournament, and of course the number 2 seed at the time in the country with the Michigan Wolverines. I can't bet against them. I think what Texas has the season that they have had this year has been remarkable with Sean Miller and how he's pretty much revamped, bring in new pieces. With like Simeon Wilcher from St. John's, who hasn't been as active in the tournament this year as he's been in the regular season. But the job that Sean Miller has done, of course, with the big Texas oil money and the boosters, the firepower to work with, this is what they expect. They expect Texas to be in the tournament and to make a run. Right now, they have the opportunity to advance to Elite Eight, but I just don't think they get past Purdue. I like Purdue over Texas to advance. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going with Purdue. I think Purdue, I know there's a lot. So Purdue surprised me. I didn't realize that would be good because I haven't really paid attention to them this season. But watching them go through this tournament and watching the team play, the coaching, and the way that they play the game, they're going to be a problem. And I don't think Texas has the firepower overall to compete with them. So I'm going with Purdue.
They pass the ball quick. That's the thing with Purdue. They pass that ball quick, and then by the time the defender gets in front of them behind the arc to shoot the three, the three's already going in.
It's too late. Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah.
Like that offense right now is clicking. Like when you watch them play, it is clicking on all levels. So unless they're having like a terrible shooting day or just a bad, which is not, we haven't seen it yet. It's hard to pick against them because they play all phases of the game and they're well coached, which is, I think people don't really understand the emphasis on coaching in a tournament like this because you have to make adjustments on the fly. There is no tomorrow. So if something's not working in the first half, second half, you better have an adjustment or you going home. And so as we getting closer and you're in the Sweet 16, coaching is going to play a big part in how some of these games shake out because there's some coaches that we know they're the X's and O's and they know what they're doing and we watch how disciplined their teams are, what have you. And the other ones that we've seen in moments where like, okay, what are you thinking? Like, why are you doing that? That's where we're at with this. So coaching is going to be a big thing. And I think Purdue is one of the better and well-coached teams of this tournament. I think they've been slept on and kind of, under the radar, but they're going to be a problem. And
can Matt Painter take them there? Because Matt Painter, as much as he has done with Purdue, he has not won a title under his coaching regime.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think one of the most underrated things that people don't give Purdue enough credit for, and Marissa talked about it, John is pivoted as well with how the quick passes, the quick touch, the hot potato, as we say in basketball. They are a really good passing team, averaging over 19 assists per game. I think that's something that's underrated that doesn't get talked about enough about this Purdue Boilermaker team because, listen, we've seen so far in the tournament with how they play offensively, but more importantly, the game plan that Coach Painter puts into place, we haven't seen them really down or have their backs against the wall so far in the tournament. We know the deeper you go, that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. But with the experience that Purdue has had this year, knowing that they've been in situations that mostly every top team in the country has been in, UConn, of course, Arizona, Michigan, Duke, and others. When you're down, the answer is how do you respond and overcome? Purdue has all the ingredients to do that, and I look forward to seeing this game on on Thursday, and I have Purdue advancing. But there's one game that I want to talk about in particular. I know we have UConn versus Michigan State. I know. Izzo versus Hurley. I know. But it's the game for me of Friday, and that's St. John's versus Duke. Rick Pitino versus John Shire. Now, Duke has been on the hot seat in the first round against Siena because they almost blew it up. But Siena had to play literally all their starters 40 minutes that night. And that's what it takes against this Duke Blue Devil team. I talked about them last week's episode on how, Duke being a true number one seed, they have what it takes to get to to a national championship or to a Final Four. But more importantly, I think what people have remiss is that they are down two guys. And Caleb Foster has pretty much been one of their glue guys from the guard position, also in the starting lineup this year, but coming off the bench. Now, Cameron Boozer has been the best player for this team this year for the Blue Devils, but make no mistake about it, what his brother did in the second round to pretty much will Duke to win, including the first round game against Siena, I just want to give credit to that. Now, when we talk about this game between Duke and St. John's being the team that has got hot at the right time in the season, picking up that steam, going into the Big East tournament, and beating defending national champions. Defending is Florida. The year before, and that's UConn. And we know that Dan Hurley and Rick Pitino don't like each other, which is good for the sport, which is good for the conference. But he's beat him twice, and that also twice, beating them by 20-plus points on the biggest stage of them all, and that's the Big East Final. So right now, St. John's is hot. What they did last week against Kansas, Daryl Peterson, who I had high hopes for in that game, but he let me down just as I would say something disrespectful.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I am in right now.
Don't do it.
But Marissa, let's get to you. We know that this is a big game for both programs, and John Shire has been consistent since taking the helm of taking over for Mike Krzyzewski, who's now retired. But the job that Rick Pitino has done, having St. John's back in the spotlight once again, like the glory days of what the standard of St. John's is. What are some of the things or the key matchups that you're looking forward to in this game on Friday between Duke and St. John's?
I'll start with Duke first. Duke is still replaying how they escaped out of Siena. Siena's head coach, I think people took him for granted, the head coach was Jerry McNamara. Jerry McNamara was that guy from Syracuse. Okay. He helped them win a title with an unpopular, not well-known person named Carmelo Anthony. Okay. So when people were surprised that Duke didn't blow them out by 30, 40 points, please realize the guy that was coaching Siena, who now is back at Syracuse. So people should not be surprised if Syracuse is on the come up next season. He was the one that developed the guard play that frustrated Duke right inside of where they were usually comfortable behind the arc and right there being the bully in the paint. Siena had all of their ducks in a row. The problem is they missed their last 8 shots going down the stretch. Duke took over and pretty much capitalized the game. And even John Shire said that he got outcoached and outplayed by Jerry McNamara and that Siena Satan's team. With Duke, and you mentioned it, Monty, is the key people that they're missing and the injuries. And then you have on the other side, Rick Pitino. And what is going through Rick Pitino's head over and over and over and over again? The shot that happened many years ago. And y'all know what I'm talking about. And those that are going to be watching, the shot that happened that eliminated his then Kentucky Wildcats to not get that title shot. So he's been playing that over and over in his mind. And he's also been on record saying that this is his time to redeem himself. Yes, it's a different team, but it's the same godfather of basketball in Rick Pitino, the Armani suits, the swagger, all the things. Bill Self is going to be thinking about that Dylan Darling layup for pretty much the rest of his offseason, or if he comes back for Kansas and decides not to retire. Just like Rick Pitino for the past 20 plus years with that Leitner shot. This is his opportunity now to get Zuby Ejiofor and the whole entire Johnny's crew to play the most outstanding basketball. For Dylan Darling, even though he contributed 18 minutes, shocking that was his only 2 points that mattered in the whole entire game against Kansas. He's got to get it together as far as his shot selection, because he could not buy or sell or rent a bucket to save his life in the last game against Kansas. I have the Johnnies winning this just for the sheer fact that, again, and we have talked about this on the show, St. John's is playing a different element of a game that when they got their tails kicked by UConn and literally could not make a shot in the second half, the next game, to the point that we're at now, they have elevated their play. And of course, great coaching and brilliance by the Rick Pitino, but they have literally continued to elevate the game that they've been playing. And I got the Johnnies winning this one. They're gonna take over pretty much. I give it the 5-6 minute mark in the second half.
Well, John, before I give you the floor, quick out in the herd, because I know how you feel about this game, being a New Yorker, seeing the rise of St. John's, supporting St. John's during the years of Carnesecca and after Mark Jackson and others. And look, if there's one thing that I hope Coach Scheyer has learned in games like this, when you're going against a Hall of Fame coach, a national champion, you have to have your eggs and ducks in a row. And if we didn't learn about Coach Scheyer, is that we saw him last year against Houston in the Final Four, how he got out coached late in that second half against Kevin Sampson and that Houston Cougars team. We know that Cameron Boozer leads the team in each points, assists, and rebounds. We know how important Olojuwon is for St. John's, leading the team in points, assists, and rebounds. So at the end of the day, it's a coaching matchup. And right now, I believe that St. John's is prepared for this game because of the journey that they have went through, and that's including beating Kansas by 2, who's a well-coached team by Hall of Famer national championship Bill Self and himself. Now, when we talk about Duke, they've rolled over TCU 81-58. This is the game that we want to see. This is a coaching aspect we look forward to watching on display. But I am taking St. John's to be victorious on Friday night because of the experience, the knowledge, and also the talent and depth that St. John's produces off the bench and the spark they get off the bench. And I just think this will be another coaching classic from Rick Pitino. I look forward to seeing what he puts in place to pretty much limit Cameron Boozer. I've said it last week that if Cameron Boozer is not having a Cameron Boozer game, who else on Duke can pick up the slack? If Cameron Boozer is in foul trouble in this game, who else for Duke can pick up the slack? And I just think right now St. John's at the right place at the right time. So give me St. John's to advance to Elite Eight. John, who do you like?
I guess we're going to make it a trifecta because I'm going with St. John's too. I think this is going to be a great matchup. I think this is the kind of for me, it's almost a nightmare matchup for Duke. And saying that because a couple of things you know about Pitino's team, they're going to play hard and they're going to play defense. And when I look at the matchup, when you look at Zuby and you look at Boozer, that's basically going to cancel each other out. The other side of it is that Rick Pitino has guys that he doesn't have. If he doesn't want Zuby on him, he doesn't have to put him on him. He has other players that he can put on him and rotate these guys. So that works to their advantage because now you're looking to wear this guy out. The key to this game is, yes, coaching is going to be a very big key to it. The key to this game is what are your role players doing, especially on Duke's side. If St. John slows him down and Boozer is not having a Boozer game, who do you trust to step up to make baskets? That's going to be the key to this game. And because of the way that St. John's plays and because these parts are so interchangeable and you have all of these guys that can rotate and move around, they're going to make it very difficult for Duke to get a lot of clean shots. You're not going to get a lot of easy buckets with this team. You're just not. Pitino's team defense is their forte, and they're never going to give you easy baskets. You're going to work for everything. They're going to wear you out. They're going to run up and down the court. And that is to Duke's detriment because – like I said, like you said, they're missing two guys. They're missing two key guys. And Boozer right now, they've been riding him the whole time. And he hasn't really had anybody to really slow him down or where he's had to really work on defense as well as on offense. Well, Zuby's going to give you that work. So he's going to work you on the defensive end, and offensively, you're going to have to contend with him. So I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's a bad matchup style wise for Duke because of the way St. John's is playing, and St. John's got hot at the right time. Rick Pitino knows it's like, you know what? We start off the season and you're going to have these bumps and bruises, but every Rick Pitino team, when it comes time for that tournament, they're a fine-tuned machine. And this team is no different. Like, they have peaked at the right time, and this is not a team you want to play right now. You really don't. So I'm intrigued by the matchup, but I'm going with St. John's. I think they can pull this off.
There's two players in particular, one from both teams, that I believe must have a really good game if either team wants to have a shot. I know the basketball is 5 players in the bench and the team, but I'm just saying 2 matchups, 2 players that has to have a really good game if they want to have a chance to win. I look at Duke's side, it has to be Isaiah Evans, being the second, leading scorer for the team, knowing his contributions and how he stepped up with his level of play with the loss of Caleb Foster this year for the Blue Devils. He has to have a really, really, really big game for the Blue Devils because we know that Cameron Boozer, he's going to bring it. Now, what Pitino does to stop him, to be determined. We'll see on Friday night. But Isaiah Evans has got to be the guy for the Blue Devils from an offensive perspective and defensively, because we know defensively he's got a long arm span. He can guard 1 through 4. He's good off the pick and roll in terms of switching. His energy on defense is something that has pretty much helped the Blue Devils from a spark from defense to offense in transition. And then flip side, when we look at St. John's, Bryce Hopkins has got to have a game of the season because we know him coming in from Providence, being a transfer, and the importance of what he's been to Rick Pitino in this St. John's offense. He has to have a really good game as well, averaging over 14 points a game. We know his production and what he's done in the Big East tournament, not including the Big East semifinal against Seton Hall, but in the Big East final against UConn. I look forward to seeing what Bryce Hopkins and Isaiah Evans do for the 2 respective teams. But Friday night in D.C., they might have to call the Secret Service because it's going to be a no-holds-barred in D.C. between these 2 teams. Winner advanced to Elite 8. We got St. John's, all of us across the board. Sorry, Duke Blue Devils, but this is just a year. And the Armani suits roll again into the next round. And I know Rick Pitino hasn't forgotten about the shot, so that adds a little bit more juice, a little bit more preparation, a little bit more to the game plan, a little bit more to the intensity, the energy, the pregame speech, the halftime speech, the postgame speech. All the elements and layers to this game is going to be special. And I know, hopefully, they call him the Don, but you might as well call him the Godfather. And that's Mike Krzyzewski and former Duke head coach. We'll see if we'll get the game Friday night. That just adds more to it because we know Mike Krzyzewski was the head coach when they beat Rick Pitino with the shot early on in the late 80s, going into the 90s. Now, flip side, we move forward. Last game before we get into it, the final, and that's UConn and Michigan State. We do know that Rick Pitino is going to be watching to see, because the 2 coaching matchups that I look forward to seeing is this game right here after St. John's and Duke. Dan Hurley has done a magnificent job for UConn. Has his antics on the sidelines crazy at times? Yes. Do I agree with some of it most of the time? Hell no. But that's the arrogance and the confidence that he coaches from. And I get it. Everyone has their own coaching styles. Some like it, what he does. Some don't. But the job that Tom Izzo has done yet again for the Michigan State team. Did I say that Michigan beat it twice this year? I said that. Thank you very much. But anyway.
Yes, thank you. Remind me. Thank you.
What Tom Izzo has done this year has been truly remarkable. But the play, just the guard play, and his leader from Jeremy Fears Jr., being the anchor, being the guy for this offense on both ends of the floor, but more importantly, setting up the offense, orchestrating the offense, putting the pieces in place. I thought he's had a great year. He's took a lot of course, backlash because of his antics and, on the sideline for Coach Izzo. But one thing for sure and 2 things for certain, Jeremy Fears Jr. wants to be coach. He wants to be one of the best in Spartan history. And he has an opportunity to go out there on a national stage in a Sweet 16 against a team like UConn who is tall, who has length, who is quick, who can push. And I know Michigan State, they're going to struggle, but I like UConn to advance against Michigan State. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marissa and John.
I like UConn to advance only if the other side of the fence, you got Jeremy Fears Jr., but you have Terrace Reed Jr., who is also kind of got similar stats, just like Jeremy Fears Jr., can make the plays, can make the shots, be the leader on the court. If he has a game, and the rest of the team is able to take the flow away from Michigan State, they can make things happen, and it's going to be a long second half for them. And also, Alex Caravan from UConn, you leave him open. He also is a sharp shooter. He can shoot from the perimeter, and he can also go into that net and connect and be the and one. If they leave him open and they take the wind out of the sails out of the Spartans, then you can see UConn going to the next level, to the next round, and they will be a dream game part 2 where we get to see the godfather of basketball against his just bestie for Resty and Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies. But I got UConn moving on over the Spartans, not because I'm not a Spartan fan or maybe because I'm not a Spartan fan. I just think that UConn has got too many weapons that they're going to unleash. And it's going to be, again, a long second half, if you will, at the halfway point with Michigan State.
John, there's 2 folks going for UConn.
Yeah, I can't bet against UConn.
They match up pretty well.
They match up well, but I think UConn, I think their size and also their depth, I think is just going to be a little bit too much. But now, on the other side, if Fears goes nuts like he did last game, where they're going to have to slow him down. He's the key to the whole thing. If he's running up and down this court and he's making the pass to the open man, and he's racking up assists, and all of a sudden he starts to get hot from the perimeter, you're going to have a problem. Mm-hmm. Because he has shown that he can take over a game by himself. Like there's no getting around that. So they are going to have to maintain control over him and not let him run wild. That's going to be the key to this game. If they can slow him down, or not even necessarily slow him down, but make it difficult for him with their length, with their size. If they can do that, then UConn rolls on this and it's not a problem. But if this kid comes out on fire and they can't slow him down, and Michigan State gets into that rhythm, because we saw last week what happened once he got them into a rhythm. It was a lot of easy baskets. It was a lot of penetration and kick and guys getting open shots. And you don't want that with them because they all got hot at the same time. So that's the kind of game that they're going to look to play against UConn. So UConn is going to have to slow that down. They're going to have to make it difficult for him, especially penetration-wise, so he's not getting to the basket to either shoot it or pass it. And I think that's going to prevail because of the size and their, the depth of that team. But I'm not ruling Michigan State out. I'm just not, because we know how Tom Izzo's teams are. Yeah. They're going to grind you. They're going to play D. They're going to slow this game down. If they got to make it ugly, they're going to make it ugly. But they're going to compete. And so this is not going to be an easy game where it's just going to be a walkover. So it's an intriguing matchup, but I'm going to go with UConn. And
don't let Carson Cooper get involved for Michigan State, because he's a problem too.
He is definitely a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's one thing that John forgot to add, but I will add it for him because that's the love I have for him. We cannot forget about Michigan State last game against Louisville. Jeremy Fears contributing and leading the team in assists with 16 against Louisville. Absolutely. That player, he's all around. He's all around. Yeah. If I'm Dan Hurley, I would probably want to put Solo Ball on him just to kind of shake things up. Mm-hmm. Solo Ball is a long lefty guard. He very, very athletic defenseman. I got the chance to see him up close and personal up in Storrs, Connecticut when they played Seton Hall at home. It's going to be an interesting matchup. We all have UConn across the board to advance the Elite Eight. No shade to the great Tom Izzo. Right now, we're taking the Huskies.
Solo Ball has got to be a key contributor. If he is ever fouled in the game, he needs to make his free throws. He's got to make his free throws. He's got to make his
free throws are going to be at a premium. Like, you got to make the free throws. But the key, they've got to slow Fears down. If they can slow him down, it makes their task a lot easier. But if he's running wild, like I said, that kid has 16 assists. If he's running wild like that, because he's making everybody else better, and now you even though you're focused on him, you got to focus on these other guys because they're the ones making the shots.
Exactly.
So you've got to slow him down. So you put somebody with some size on him, some length, try to make it a little bit difficult for him so he doesn't have those angles and those views that he can see so easily that he did against Louisville. Because Louisville was like he was on a playground. You can't have him doing that. Like, that just does not work.
100%.
Yeah. So for the sake of tonight's episode, we do things a little different, and this is where the both of you That's right. I said it. The both of you will be on the hot seat because I'm just saying I can't give my pick yet because I'm going to wait until maybe next week for the Elite Eight action, but maybe the Final Four to give my winner on who's cutting down the nets in Indianapolis this year. But you know how we do on the Rewind. It's time for another week, another edition of Floss with Moss. Chris, Dan. Hang on, I got something in my tooth, but I don't have anything to floss with. I don't have anything. On episode 57's edition of Floss with Moss, we put John and Marissa on the hot seat, and it's pretty much to tell us who's going to be the Final Four winner in Indianapolis. Now, listen, as I said, I cannot give my pick just yet, but just know your answer is flossy. It can be flossy. It can be flossy. But for the sake of episode 57th edition, John and Marissa, I'll start with John. I'll start with Marissa. No, I'm going to start with John.
It's your anniversary. Start with John.
Let's start with the anniversary being today, knowing that you're going to celebrate with the wife this weekend. Please give us John Copeland Jr.'s pick to win. Actually, let's do this. Give us who will be in the Final Four, and then give us who's cutting down the nets. Because if you remember last year, we had John on. He was right. He was on point.
I told you.
He just picked the wrong winner. Last year, John picked Houston to cut down the nets, but it was Florida who was victorious. So, John, not also do you have the opportunity to redeem yourself once again, but right now you got to tell the world globally who's in your Final Four, but more importantly, who's cutting down the nets to your national champion in Indianapolis.
All right, so my Final Four, I'm going with St. John's, UConn, Purdue, and Arizona. And to cut down the nets, I'm going to roll with Arizona just because I just like the way they've been playing this year. And I'm even being in Arizona, I'm not an Arizona fan, so don't get that twisted. I've watched them and I've seen how they play. So I think once they get down to that Final Four, I think they're going to be the team to beat.
Marissa, the floor is yours.
That pause gets me every time.
And he see how he did. He went loud with it. He wasn't even loud. He was very, very low and silent and dropped this place to the left.
Because my analytical mind is working, man. Because I gotta see how I know. Last year I did really well, and like this year it feels a little bit different this year, and so
NIL has improved.
Yes, the money is flowing, so things are a little bit different this year.
Marissa, who do you like in the Final Four this year? And more importantly for the world, who is your national champion in Indianapolis?
All right, my Final Four is, of course, the Podfather, the Armani wearing, jet flying, Rolex watch wearing, St. John's. I got Houston. I got Go Blue all day, baby. We're going to be in the Final Four. Dusty May has completely revamped and turned this team around. And I know UNC needs a head coach right now, and they got their eyeballs on Dusty May. They need to put their eyeballs somewhere else. Go get Florida's coach. Leave my coach alone. And then I have Arizona. Something about Braden Burries when he is doing well at the guard position. And it's just shocking to me that he's only a freshman, but the way that he plays is like he's been there before and several times. And so cutting down the nets, I love my team. I really do. The concern that I have with Michigan is the shot selection and us getting into foul trouble and turnovers. I think that if they don't get that under control, it's going to be a long game when they get to the Final Four and they play Arizona. I just think Arizona is going to be a little too much for them unless chairman of the board can show up for Michigan. But right now I have Arizona cutting down the nets in the close one against the Podfather, the Godfather, the Armani suit wearing Rick Pitino. I have them very, very close in this one. I got Arizona. Since the golden days of Miles Simon cutting down the nets.
All right,
Simon reference.
All right, I like that. I like that. Now I know people out there want to hear me who I'm picking, but you just gonna have to wait. Not gonna get it tonight.
I'm sorry.
Really? That's what we doing.
To be continued on the screen.
Be determined, and you will see who I will have in the Final Four as well as the national champion.
On last week's segment, I said that if Hubert Davis loses that game, he was going to be fired. Now, understand on Global Sports Entertainment 3, we were the first ones to say this. Fast forwarding to this week, his ass is gone. And I told you, there's no reason for a coach to be up by that amount of points, become complacent. His whole career at the University of North Carolina was complacency. And you can't win as a coach being complacent. A lot of coaches are finding this out in the NCAA tournament. Is either win or go home. Sometimes you can win, go home, and lose your damn job. And Hubert Davis found this out. Great guy, great coach, but not good enough for the University of North Carolina. Now it's time for the next person to step in. Who that may be, we don't know. Could be me, hopefully, but let's see. Need a good guy in there that knows what he's doing. I'm not a big believer of hiring ex-players as coaches. Just because you can play the game don't mean that you can coach. However, you need a guy with a good track record to come in there like a Dean Smith, to come in there and do some work and put North Carolina back where they need to be. That's my unfiltered. It ain't crazy, but it's just righteous. Go North Carolina, Tar Heels. Let's make it happen.
As they say, all good things must come to an end. I love you both. If you haven't, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel at @3-1_GSE3, as well as follow us on all our social media platforms at @3-1_GSE3. I know there was a lot to talk about tonight, and I know we left a lot of food on the table. However, John and Marissa do what they do as they always. So going around the room, JC23, for the people out there that's new, that's watching, as well as some folks that may not have remembered who you are, where can they find you, where they can support you, and tell us one message that you would like to leave to the world for the year of 2026.
Oh, man. So how you going to put me on the spot from the jump?
Didn't you do that to me?
Come on, man.
Hey, look, I didn't get a script. I didn't say this was going to be – I just was like, okay, let's go.
Okay, that's all right. So I'll give you that. We did throw you to the fire. All right. So you can find me at John Copeland Jr. 23 on Instagram, also on Facebook. So it's all the way across all my social media. One word. Listen, man, you know what? One message I would say, listen, be kind. It costs nothing to be kind, and in the climate and things that are going on right now and the way that we are, we need kindness and humanity. So just be kind. It costs you nothing.
Marissa, now we know you are a jack of all trades, especially and also, did you set the world on fire with who you have cutting down the nets?
Michigan fans, don't come at me, please. Trust me, I want my boys to win. I'm rocking the shirt. Like, come on, like don't come at me. Do not come at me. But you can come at me on all my socials. Marisa _Tigney _podcast. I'm available on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as a podcast that I have at heardthatwithmarisa.com. And to go along with what John said about kindness and understanding. Let's be understanding with one another. Let's not judge one another. There's too much judgment, finger pointing that's going on in the world today. Let's go and just be understanding and know where somebody is coming from, and give them a kind word. Give them, buy them a cup of coffee, have a conversation with them, make that person feel seen. You'd be amazed how many people right now with mental health being a number one issue and a challenge that's happening right now. And John has beautifully talked about it so much on his platform and his show that y'all need to tune in on Thursdays and watch. It is so detrimental now more than ever that we as a society understand one another and be compassionate and kind with one another. And I think that that's where we evolve as people, grow as people, when we do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just looking for when I can come back. I mean, he's got a great platform. He's doing what he's supposed to
here we
be.
go.
He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's stepping into his role and what he's been talking about doing, and that's living with a purpose, living in his purpose, walking in faith, being, of course, a man of faith. And again, you know me, I like to give people their flowers while they're here, and John has done a tremendous job week in and week out with his show, J-Cope Conversations. And look, listen, we've all have our weeks. You know, this is a weekly thing that we do. John does his thing weekly as well. Some weeks are better than others. Some days are better than others.
Absolutely.
But his willingness, his determination, and discipline to stay focused on the task at hand, and that's to do this week in and week out. Trust me, I know it ain't easy. It's not easy, but yet job still gets done. People still get to have a beautiful product to watch and like and love and support. And that's J-Cope Conversations as well as the Rewind. So I'd be remiss if I didn't give him his flowers. Now, Marissa, you should already know how I do with you, how my love I have for you. And that's being pretty much cultivated with you over the last 6 years and being a supportive of your work and what you've done. And I am going to wear your shirt at some point. I'm going to wear your shirt maybe in April. I'm not sure. It's Laker colors, so that you are definitely on point with that. But your love and support and what you do, your knowledge for the game of sports, your passion, being a woman in sports and being an advocate for women in sports, me being on this platform and knowing the importance of that and wanting that more and more and more. I just want to give you your flowers and say thank you for your contributions, your love, your sacrifice, your commitment to excellence with everything you do on Marissa Tigney Sports and then all your platforms. So, you know, you both are welcome here anytime. I shouldn't even have to ask. You guys would just ask me like, hey, can I come on tonight? And I'd just be like, oh, okay, come on down if the price is right. But, you know, I appreciate your love, your support of this thing from the start to now. Again, it's a weekly thing. You guys show love on social media platforms. I don't ask for any of that. That's something that you guys do because it is a choice. It's a choice. We get choices to do things. And
Absolutely.
You guys, I appreciate you guys pouring into me. I'm going to continue to pour into you and support you in best way I can with this platform and any other platform I have to elevate your game because that's what we're supposed to do. Love wins. $0 to be a good person, as you all know.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
We get ready to get up on here. So you got their Final Four predictions. You got the national championship picks. You got the previews of both Thursday and Friday games of the men's side for Sweet 16, as well as a preview of the women's side. Marissa's already been on the repeater that UConn's going to repeat. John said that UConn's going to repeat. I say I'm not sure yet because I can't give you my pick just yet. But just know Thursday and Friday, from a fan perspective, we have both games, good games, great games on Thursday and Friday for the men's and women's. So I appreciate all the love and support. If you haven't, give a big thank you, big love to our dog Chris in 1990 Studios for all the work he does. Pat, the whole team of what they do week in, week out. Again, not easy as a commitment, and they do what they're supposed to do, and that's supporting me and following my lead on this journey. So all the love and praise and credit goes to them. And I would say a prayer since I'm in church tonight, but I won't. But just know, I will leave you with one of my favorite.
Oh my goodness! I can't with this dude.
It's Romans, chapter 8, verses 18.
Mm-hmm.
It goes, the pain of what you're feeling is nothing compared to the joy that's coming. So for all the things that you're going through, rather it's bad, joy is coming. And have more gratitude. Have more gratitude. Roof over your head, gratitude. Clothes on your back, gratitude. Shoes on your feet, gratitude. Underwear that's clean, gratitude. Be able to walk, run, lift, assist, do what you want to do in life, far as goals, far as achievements, celebrating yourself, far as celebrating others, gratitude. The ability that we wake up in the morning, what an opportunity we get, gratitude. Have more gratitude because, you know, I listened to something last week. It said when let me quote this correctly because I need to do it right. I need to do it right. What does it say? Your blessings are greater when you have gratitude. Your blessings flow when you have gratitude.
Mhm.
And I know everybody wants it now and now and now and now and now, but
Mhm.
it don't work that way. His plans are better than anybody else's. Trust me, I
Amen.
know. I can do an
Amen.
episode
Amen.
Rhode Island itself, what he had to bring me through. But more importantly, ask yourselves, what is it teaching me? What am I learning?
Right.
What is the lesson? Because if you don't learn, best believe it's going to happen again in a
Mhm.
different scenario. So
Mhm.
give grace to those, have gratitude for yourself, give gratitude to others. And listen, we all go through things behind closed doors. Check up on your people. Check on
Absolutely.
your people.
That's
Guys, I
right.
appreciate you guys. So from John Copeland Jr. to Marissa Tigney to Monty Moss, Chris, 1990 Studios, Pat, the team, the crew, episode 57 signing off. Will be at the same place at the same time next week. Happy anniversary to John and his wife, Susan. Shout
Happy
out to
anniversary.
Thank you.
to everybody out there, sports fan. Enjoy Sweet 16 action, both men's and women's, Thursday and Friday. And as I always say before every end of every episode.
Oh, Lord.
I can't.
I
Go
can't
Blue.
either.
Let's go!
I was checking out the scouting report, and I don't see nothing but bums. You and your whole entire world know that I am the one. You and your squad ain't got nothing for me.
Hey.
Your organization is looking stressed,
What?
and now that you haters is running from me, I know that you see that I'm highly blessed.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, we live with your boy Coach G. Yeah, we live with your boy Monty.
You and your squad ain't got nothing for me. Your organization is looking stressed, and now that you haters is running from me.